Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Sewing and Vacuum Warehouse, and today we're going to take our deep dive through Janome's 9410. And again, I want to reiterate, this is going to be the machine we're giving away. So for more information on that, watch till the end and you'll see everything. So let's go over this big, beautiful machine. This is one of Janome's newest drops, and it is going to come with the beautiful rose gold finish, something that is rather rare for sewing machines. Most of the time we see white. On our rare occasion, we do see a black machine, but you don't often see something with a rose gold finish. So coming up to our buttons, we got our standard buttons of our luxury lineup of machines. We got our auto cutter, but most important to me at least is our auto presser foot. That way I can do things like pivot mode, which we'll dive into later, and I can actually use it for a bunch of cool different features. Moving down, we'll get to a comfortable 11¼ inch throat space, and with that throat space I get this nice accessory tray for extra storage as well. And I can pull this off. When I pull this off, this exposes my free arm. So this machine is not really just for quilters. Because I have a free arm, I can do a lot of bag making, I can do a lot of hemming on it, and also I have an awesome needle plate system here where I can actually just pop this needle plate up and remove it and replace it based on whatever job I'm doing, or if I'm doing cleaning. But this takes out the having to unscrew my needle plate. I'll put this right back in here, and I can pop it right back down. So attaching and taking off a needle plate is that simple. Another cool thing about Janome's needle plate system is it always recognizes what needle plate is in it. So if you have the straight stitch needle plate in and you plan on doing a zigzag, your machine's not going to let you. So it protects you in that sense, or it protects itself, however you want to look at it. But that's a nice feature of the straight stitch system, or actually the needle plate system of Janome. So moving into internal features. I want to show you a few things of how this machine works. When I adjust my stitch, or I select my stitch, as every machine will, when I select the stitch, it will show the stitch I have on the screen. Something that not every machine will do though is when I go to adjust this stitch, it will actually change live on my screen so I can see what the stitch is going to look like. If I'm wanting a small satin stitch, my screen will show a small satin stitch, and it's exactly what I'm going to get at my needle point. When we move into the quick stitch selection, this definitely has a fancy Janome name, and that is not it. But I want to show you what it is. It's basically your pages of stitches, and I can navigate through these, and it makes my life a little bit easier when I'm trying to find a stitch. And so if I'm in my quilting mode, or I'm looking for my quilting mode, I want to go to my 1/4 inch stitch, I can go right there. I also do have this categories button, so if I know what category I need to go to, I can just go in there if I'm doing a satin stitch, and it will open all my satin stitches for me. We're going to move into sewing applications mode. So we'll start with something for our quilters, and we'll go into the quilting portion of the sewing applications, and we have a feature that Janome has given us called patchwork piecing. And what this is for is if I'm doing what we like to call chain piecing, if I'm doing a ton of 2-inch squares and it's just going to be back to back to back to back, this is something where I can use the patchwork piecing mode. So what I'm going to do is put my machine in pivot mode. What pivot mode is, whenever I finish, it will drop the needle and pick the presser foot up. And normally what it's intended for is pivoting my fabric around, but we're going to use it for a different purpose here. So we'll start with our needle down, and we'll get our machine going, something faster than 2 miles an hour. Now, when I'm at the very end of this, it's another cool feature with Janome. I can hold the start-stop button, and we will enter what we call here creep mode. And I want to go about a 1/4 inch past the fabric. And the reason it's called creep mode is it just creeps forward and allows you to be very accurate with where you finish your stitch. Now my machine's going to ask, do we want to do the same size? If I'm doing chain piecing, like I said, more than likely it's a bunch of the same pieces. So yes, I am going to do the same size. And now I can go to piecing heaven, piecing town, whatever you want to call it. I'll bud this next piece of fabric up against the needle and start. I can let it go, especially if I'm using like my 1/4 inch foot with a guide. I can just allow that to guide the fabric, and it will stop about a 1/4 inch past. My next piece is ready. I bud it up and I take off again. And I can do this over and over and over again. And if I have something like a blade saver sitting by my machine, which I'll have Sean pop up on the screen, when I'm done here, I can just cut this over. And now, it doesn't always like to cut when we go past the fabric. So I can cut this over though. and I can now take that blade saver and I can chop all of my pieces apart. Another thing for quilters, a lot of our quilters love to do applique, but I've seen applique on bags even, so you can really do applique anywhere. So I'll show you a cool feature of this machine for applique. A lot of times when we're doing applique, we're using a satin stitch to like fill in around a patch or something like that. And it's not always, if I'm using like a square, I'm using a lot of corners. In those corners, I'll have giant knots where it's satin stitch, rotated, sitting on another satin stitch. And I have two of those sitting on top of each other, so how can we avoid that? Well, Janome has brought in a mode called tapering mode. So in our stitch settings, we can actually go in and adjust the angle based on what shape we're doing. So for example, I'm not the greatest sewer, so I'm gonna do a square. We're gonna use 45-degree angles. The way I do that math is 45 degrees plus 45 degrees. I wanna make a 90-degree angle. Mathematics. So we're gonna go into, we'll press OK to save that. And I'm gonna widen my stitch up just a little bit here so you guys can see that angle a little bit more. So I'll widen that stitch up and take my locking stitches off, and so I'll just hit start. And again, I'll show you, this is where pivot mode also comes into play as well. So I get it to come down at a taper by hitting the lock stitch, and it will slowly creep to a corner, and now I'm in pivot mode. So I just rotate my fabric 90 degrees, or what feels like 90 degrees to me. And now it's gonna ask same size again. So just like the patchwork piecing mode, if I'm doing perfect squares, I just hit OK. And now I don't have to worry about being perfect on this side. If I'm good on that side, I'll be good on this side. And here it will come to another end. Now I'm gonna go ahead and cut that because the odds of me making a perfect square are less than slim to none. So, but you can actually see, so where it came down at an angle and left at an angle, I no longer have a giant knot sitting in my corner. Now we're gonna go into one more feature for our non-quilters. We're gonna go back into sewing applications mode. So that's my t-shirt in the top right. And this is for any job that I might not be used to doing, or if I do like a lot of one thing. So let's take zippers, for example, and our bag makers, or even if you're making jeans, you have zippers on there. So we're gonna go over a page, and I have two different types of zippers that I can select from. I have a lapped zipper and I have a pouch zipper. So for our bag makers, we'll use a pouch zipper. And what this will do is it will ask me, do I want to sew on the right side? Do I want to sew on the left side? Tells me what foot I need to be using. So, and if I'm sewing on that specific side, it's going to move my needle all the way over there so I can get right up against that zipper, as the zipper foot is already a pretty narrow foot and allows me to get real close to it just like I need to be. And I mentioned the blade saver earlier, so I actually had one brought over here, and this is what a blade saver looks like. It is as simple as a rotary blade sitting inside of this. So one of your old rotary blades that have gone dull, when I do my chain piecing, I can take this stuff right over here, and I can now, if I can fit it through, oh, that's not an empty spot. So I can go right there where the blade is, and it cuts my pieces right apart for me. But you must go where the blade is. Found that out the hard way just now. Now, I mentioned in the very beginning of this video that we're going to be giving away one of these machines. It will not be this demo. It will be a brand new in a box 9410. That is because we're on the hunt for 5,000 subscribers. So the way you enter this giveaway is you just subscribe, as simple as that. If you want an additional entry to our giveaway, drop a comment on any of our videos, and that is how you'll get your second entry. If you like this machine, go ahead and drop this video a like, and you might as well subscribe to enter the giveaway. It's not going to hurt you. I'm Quinton from Sewing and Vacuum Warehouse, and we'll see you next time.